Hello and welcome everyone back to another Dwarf Fortress episode. There was a slight mishap with the audio recordings in this one, so I am going to record the audio after I have filmed the episode. I hope that is okay. Well, so in this episode we are going to build a few farming plants or rather a farming room and try to farm in it and try to get a few crops growing so we can uh, keep our dwarves all fed, all nice, all healthy and so on. We can also grow then beer from it. So we are just walking around a little bit here, looking how far the dwarves have come in hauling all the things in and been digging out a few more things and been building. So we are going to place the few beds that were not placed earlier, place them out and so on. What we are doing here is just basically waiting for the dwarves to construct all the beds that we have required them to construct and creating a bedroom for them so they have somewhere to sleep and don't have to sleep on the ground, making them a bit more happy. As you can see there, they have been busy hauling in all the things so that we have them underground and in safe storage so that no burglars or anything along those lines will be able to come in and steal our food and important things. It appears that we are here having a quick look at the status menu, seeing how much food and so on. We have quite a decent number of things. It should be enough for now. However, we'll start to get our brewery up and running rather quickly so that we don't accidentally end up with too little food, or rather ale, I should say. A brewery is very important. A kitchen could also be an option here to start thinking about, because kitchen uses all this raw food, processes into meals. Well, yeah, meals, fine, decent and lavish meals. I don't think they're called that, but there should be three different types of meals, and then the dwarves can eat them instead of the raw food, making them a little bit more happy, and in the long run it should serve the colony. So we are still waiting for some of the dwarves to come in, and looking here we are starting to think about where the farming area should be. So as you can see here, there is this rather empty space right there. We're going to build it there and try to make it as big as possible. So a few things to keep in mind when it comes to farming is that, for instance, in order to be able to farm underground, you have to have soil or you have to pour water onto the rock. In this case, we are in a soil layer, so we just have to dig in and then we can immediately lay down our farms and start planting and growing things. If, however, we were digging into a mountain which has just got stone walls, gypsum walls, whatever, then we would have to first somehow get water in onto the floor, let it evaporate away, and then we would have so-called fertile soil and be able to grow on it. Luckily, we have soil layer, so it should be absolutely fine to just dig out a room and start planting things and then get growing. So we have designated the room here, that should be more than plenty. A few things I usually keep in mind when I plan my farming rooms is I tend to keep it as far away from the opening to the fortress as possible to prevent invaders from coming through there. Now I'm having it at this level just because this is where the soil layer is, so that you don't have to irrigate anything. I will be digging a hole in the room, connecting it up here with the bedroom. However, once we start getting the dining halls and different bedrooms set out down there, we are going to dig a staircase down and try to make sure that no one can come in through the farm into the fortress down below. And I just do this because it is a defensive strategy. And right now you can see the dwarves are not currently mining it out because they are busy hauling things. This is why we are going to have a look at one of the dwarves and see how we can make them prioritize mining instead of hauling. So what we do here is we click V, we go over a dwarf, and we can see all its stats, what its name is, if it's a girl, if it's a boy, and we can see what it's carrying, what it's wearing, all these things. So you would have to press V, select a dwarf, in this case it's minor dwarf, which you can see from the sprite graphic, and you would then have to click, I believe it was P for proficiencies. We will eventually get there, and here we will see a list of all the proficiencies, or professions that the dwarf will be able to work at or have some skill in. That was the wrong screen there, but soon it should pop up. No, wait, that's not it. It should soon be here. There we go. Okay, so there are these few names in the list, which are highlighted, meaning that he is currently doing them, or she. And if they are grayed out completely, then they are not doing it. If they are slightly colored, then that would mean that that you can click it, and then some of the subsections are actually chosen. So, as we could see, the mining is selected, as it is highlighted, but also hauling. And there are lots of different hauling options, so we can disallow all of them, or just some of them. If we, for instance, just would want this dwarf to mine and carry food items, we could do that if we wanted to. But for now, I think we are going to disable all hauling. So this is what you have to go through every time with every single dwarf you want. If you want to change which what he will be spending his time on. This will become very time consuming and very, very hard to keep track of all your dwarves, especially when their numbers start rising. Which is why we have a dwarf therapist. It's this utility program here, which we are going to open in just a second. As you can see, you can open it from this lazy noob pack. It's under utilities and looks like this. It is really useful. You get this nice spreadsheet over all of your dwarves. You get these nice experience bars filling up these squares, showing how experienced they are at certain things, showing how good they are, their moods, their current jobs, if they are mad at something or something, all along those lines. And it's just really, really handy, especially when you get new dwarves. You can easily open Dwarf Therapist and you can see, okay, this dwarf is good at this and this and that, and we don't want him to be doing this and this and that. So, as you can see there, the miners, they have been mining, so they have been gaining experience, and they are selected. And you can also see that we, as we have deselected the hauling option for one of our minor dwarves, they are now not colored in at the far right side. We are going to do the same thing with this other minor dwarf, so we just deselect all of the cubes that we do not, or boxes that we do not want the dwarf to be doing. We commit the changes into Dwarf Fortress. After that, we are free to enter back into Dwarf Fortress and keep going. And as you probably can tell, this tool becomes incredibly handy when you have a lot of dwarves and you want a quick overview of what they are capable of and how good they are at things and so on. You can also rename your dwarves from there if you want to. You can give them customary names, maybe making it easier to know which dwarf is which. But as you can see, the dwarves have now stopped hauling completely and are just digging out or mining. Now we are going to select a few more trees to chop. No, wait, I am actually just designating a bit more of land to be dug out because I don't like the design there. I just like to have a nice big open space. Nothing really to do. That's just aesthetics for me, really. It's not that important. But they are digging out the farming room. I will call it the farming room. And as soon as they are ready, we are going to build a few farm plots and have them start growing things. So we are also going to start digging downwards and start to delve deeper into the mountain. We do this by clicking first D for designation, then I believe it is I, or yes I, for up and down staircases, meaning they can traverse both in both directions on them. We are going to do that and go down a few Z levels, so that we will be able to start building our dining halls and personal rooms down in the depths. The reason we do this is because dwarves prefer stone to soil, because they can improve the stone, they can smooth it, and they can engrave it, and it just gives them a big happiness boost to have a stone room because they are dwarves. The beds will still be made of wood, because that is like the one thing that you can't make out of stone, which you need wood for. Almost all other things can be made with stone or another material of some description. Uh, and you will also notice, if you go into the Wii screen and check a few of the dwarves, you can see the preferences, and a few of the dwarves will prefer a specific kind of wood, or perhaps someone prefers to have zinc table or something. I do not know. They are completely randomized and generated for each and every single individual dwarf. Maybe one of the dwarves absolutely hates copper statues. I don't know. You have to click them and see, and it's really a good way to get into the nitty-gritty of the Dwarf Fortress, is to select the dwarf and see what it's thinking, if it has slept on the ground or if it has slept on some place and so on. It's really great. So yeah, here selecting the farm plots, which I believe was B and then P for farm plot, and you can make them as big almost or as small as you want. A few things to keep in mind is that you will want to stay away from multiples of 4, i.e. you don't want farm plots which are 4, 8, 12, 16 squares big. No matter how wide or how high they are, but you don't want the number of squares to be a multiple of 4. The reason for this is simply that it will just make the use of fertilizer a little bit more expensive. There's this formula for calculating how much fertilizer you will need for a specific farm plot. It is basically the number of farm plot squares divided by 4 plus 1. So nothing really special about it. It's not that important, except that you will be needing more fertilizer if you have it bigger. So I just prefer to stay away from multiples of 4 wherever possible. Other than that, you can make them as big or as small as you want. A thing to keep in mind there is, of course, that the bigger you make them, the longer it will take for the dwarves to get it all planted and harvested. Also, if you make a few or a row of smaller ones, as I'm going to do here, you will be able to much more customize which type of plant will be growing where and at what time. This is good because then you will get more variety than if you have a few large plots. As you can see, they're still blinking because someone has to go and build them, and then another person will go and farm. But I prefer these many smaller ones to a few bigger ones, just because you will get more flexibility. And as you can see, I have made them 7 tall and 1 wide. This is just to minimize the amount of fertilizer needed. I will still need 2 for one of them, but that is perfectly reasonable. You don't waste any fertilizer this way. That's all. So the room that I designated there is basically what I call a seed room. It is a room in which I will place a stockpile for seeds. I do this so that the growers won't have to go so far to get the seeds and get them planted. Currently all the seeds are down there in the on the right hand side in that red stockpile. You don't have to do this, I just prefer doing it because then I can have all the seeds stored in one place, and the dwarves that are growing things will have much easier access, and it will go just a little bit quicker. So that's what I'm designating there. nice easy stockpile. And of course disallowing seeds in the other one so that they won't keep them there. It will be a bit of hauling to get them to the new stockpile, but it will be worth it in the long run. Also, at this point, I think they have more or less dug out the stairwell downwards, so we are going to go and start building our living areas and what are they called, dining halls and so on down there. I prefer being, as I said, as far down as possible, because the reason for that is simply that you won't be digging into soil all that much, which is good because the dwarves like stone. So we are going to start designating things here to be dug out in a moment. But basically how I like to design my fortresses so that they will survive invasions and that you can play with the invading forces a little bit, is that I like to dig out a rather long hallway first, just like this. Not that long, I'm going to shorten it, but anyways. So I dig out a large hallway, and this has a number of different reasons. In this hallway you can fill it with traps, you can dig out an area that you fill with magma, then you have a bridge over it, or maybe you just carve in fortifications along the walls so that the dwarves will be able to stand there in safety and shoot at the invaders as they try to go down your hall. Maybe you dig out alcoves and build statues so that the dwarves will get a nice feeling walking through there. There's a lot of applications for a hall this size. But I am basically going to be filling this one in with traps and maybe making a moat of some sort, and maybe even put in a few statues and dig out alcoves for them, just to make the dwarves a little bit more happy. When they enter the fortress they will feel like they have come into a big, pompous, nice and epic place. And it will make the dwarves happy, especially if they like statues, so it's really not that big a deal, and it is a defensive structure. And a really simple one at that. So we are going to do a T intersection, and I'm going to here designate a dining room. I think I am going to move it because I realize that may not be the best spot. But yes, I also like to have an uneven number when it comes to counting squares. So I don't want a room that is 10 by 10, because then you will get these rather awkward angles with tables and so on. I just prefer if it is uneven, because then you will be able to fill it in more space efficiently and it will look just a little bit better. However, I now decided that was a bad space because our farm is on the left, so I will be building the dining hall at that side. And the reason there that I'm leaving a little bit of space between the entryway and the hallway is because I will be probably building a corridor in there which will house archers so that they will be able to shoot at invaders. Or something along those lines. I just want to have the flexibility to be able to put in alcoves. So I'm going to dig back here. Here I'm going to designate the dining hall, and later also a kitchen in conjunction with it, so that the dwarves that are working the kitchen will be able to prepare the meals and leave them in a stockpile, and then they will can go eat in this room. It's just to make the life for the dwarves a little bit more simple. I will then later make a workshop floor, probably above it, and have all the stockpiles with all the raw materials there, and have the food centered here. This just makes it a little bit easier for the dwarves to be closer to the food and not having to run all over the fortress. I just prefer it that way. You can do it your way, but this is how I will be doing it. I will also be enlarging the seeds chamber here, because I realized it might be a little bit too small once you start growing things. Also, the way that you get seeds in this game is rather interesting. You get seeds if you bring them with you. You can buy them from traders and so on. Also, whenever a dwarf eats something, they will produce a seed. And when you harvest something, I don't think you get a seed, but when you eat it or eat a plant, say a strawberry, you will get a strawberry seed, and so on. I am not so sure that cooking it will grant a seed, but I do know that brewing them will also grant a seed. So you should not lose seeds just because they are eating it. They will generate seeds, so you should be fine. You will get messages every now and then that your seeds are running low, especially in the beginning, because they will be planting a lot and you won't have enough in the beginning. That is completely fine, and eventually the seeds will be, you will have enough seeds not to have to worry about. So what we are doing here is we are placing the stairway down to the kitchen that I was talking about. This is also sort of a defensive thing, just so that I can have a stairwell which is completely separate from the main one, so that all the dwarves won't be going through here. Only the growers and farmers and cooks will be going through here, bringing down the food into the kitchen and keeping it at a safe place, also preventing invaders. So that is what I'm going to dig out there. So now the dwarves have got a new work, they will start mining out the dining hall. I will soon designate a few rooms for the dwarves to stay in, but I think this will be more than plenty for now. And next time I think we'll be starting to designate plants to be planted and start thinking a little bit more about the dining hall. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.